1989 Toyota 3-liter V6 alternator change. Here's the tools, and after the tools are some checks you ought to perform before replacing the alternator. This is a 3-liter V6 1989 Toyota pickup, and I have a bad alternator, which I tested by disconnecting the negative post on the battery, and the car immediately stalled, which means the alternator is not putting out enough juice to keep it running. And the following video will be how to access and replace the alternator. Okay, this is the next step. I removed the air box. It was 3 bolts mounted here, here, and just in front of the antifreeze overflow. I had to disconnect 2 hoses that had simple clamps on them, and the air intake that had a Phillips screw clamp on them. So I used channel locks to get these clamps off, and I used the Phillips screwdriver to get this clamp off, and then the bolts came out with 12 mil on a 1-foot extension, which is required to reach all the way down underneath the overflow. I left the wiring connected, but I did disconnect the wire that went across the air intake hose just to flip it up out of the way. To remove the wires, you have a bolt on top. I'll give you the dimensions for the socket in just a minute. And then there's a clip on the bottom of this round connector that goes into the back of the alternator. You push down on this tab and wiggle it out. Comes out pretty easy. There'll be some grease on the inside. So the wiring connection was a 10 mil nut, and this wiring harness here, I pulled this tab back and pressed a screwdriver down to release the arrowhead on that plastic tab. Normally I would have just ripped it out and tried to duct tape it back on, but since I'm being patient in a video, I did it the right way. And it just connects to a wire that's separate from the alternator as far as I can tell. Little correction, the upper bolt's 14 mil on a 3-inch extension, gives you access. And then the one down here, sorry for the camera angle, the one down here that allows you to take the slack off the belt, that one's a 12. So 14 up top, 12 down below for the mounting. Okay, so here's the bolts removed. The long bolt was from the upper mount, which you can see in the high center right there. There was no nut behind it. You did have to take the weight off the alternator, slide it the rest of the way out. The bottom one, also no nut, but there is a washer on there that you can lose and ruin your day. Came out pretty easily. So here's the new alternator in. I put it in place and then put the long screw in the mount in the top to hold it, making sure that I had the belt on the outside of the pulley. Then I did the connections in the back. That's a 10 mil nut, and then that clip. Got to be careful of the holding it high enough and tension on the belt to be able to push it in the back. You can hear that little push clip snap into place. And then I put the 12 mil tensioner bolt on the bottom, put it in most of the way, and then left the 12 mil with a 3-inch extension and the ratchet on the end of it. And then I ran a crowbar over the top of the pulley here, down against a motor mount inside to get leverage to put tension on the belt. I don't know what the tension's supposed to be, but I'm about at the end of my throw for the tensioner. Hopefully it's not too tight. If anybody wants to make a comment on how to know that one, feel free to tell me.